Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head up towards Gothenburg once again, or Göteborg you should say in Swedish, and as I've told you many a time, you know, Gothenburg is the city when it comes to craft beer in Sweden. There's a hell of a lot of things going on up there, and for this review we're going to visit one of the breweries who I've never tried anything from, so I'm very curious to see how this beer turns out, because I have heard this name before. So for this one we are going to go to Robot Brewing and we're having a taste of their Zoe. So this one is an Imperial Stout coming in at 8.7% and it's supposed to be pretty nice actually. This is another one that was released on the 1st of December through the winter release, I guess you could say, from Systembolaget here in Sweden, and you know, very curious to see how this one turns out. I always enjoy introducing you guys to these very small Swedish and of course Scottish breweries as well when I'm back home. I think it's always cool to review beers from the very small breweries that are only kind of just starting up, but these guys have been around for a little bit. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Robot Brewing. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers, as I mentioned. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Robot Brewing then, there wasn't actually all that much information available on these guys, even though they have been around for a couple of years. So as I mentioned to you earlier, Robot Brewing are based in Gothenburg and they were founded back in 2013 by Ingemar Jansson, or Ingo Jansson as he's known. But they initially brewed their beers at the Vega brewery, but they've now invested in their own little brewery as well. So in 2017 they invested in their own little place, as I mentioned, and this is in Aröd, which is a little bit to the north of the city. It's kind of one of the northern areas. If you go right into the centre of Gothenburg, you've got the kind of bend in the river, and then just head north a little bit, and that is Aröd, where you'll find this brewery. But they've got about 100 seats or so in their brewery. It looks like a very kind of modern operation actually. Their little brewery restaurant that they have looks actually quite stylish and things like that. I was really impressed with the photos that I saw. You can check those out on the brewery website in the description below. But in this new brewery, they're brewing 1,000 litre batches, and they've been focusing more on getting their beers into different restaurants and things around Gothenburg in the last little while, and also getting their beers distributed through Systembolaget as well, so you can get these beers nationwide as far as I understand it. But apparently Ingo is very into Belgian style beers, so they'll brew a variety of different Belgian things. I really need to try some of those because there's not many breweries in Sweden actually do Belgian style beers, but he often brews in this style and also the American beers too. He's done a lot of IPAs. When I was looking at their website earlier, they had an American brown and things like that too. I don't know, I doubt that beer will be available through Systembolaget of course, but hopefully, as I've mentioned before, I can get up to Gothenburg and do a little bit of a craft beer tour and try all the different venues. You know, you've got Spike, you've got the Brewers Bar, you've got Dugas, and you've got all of these different things going on around Gothenburg. As I mentioned, it's really this it is the city when it comes to craft beer in Sweden, and it's cool to go to one of the smaller guys that's just kind of starting up as well. And it's cool that such a small brewery, if you like, has their own premises and bar and things like that. I think that'll set them in good stead for going forward. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about this brewery just now. If you want to learn a little bit more, you can of course check out the brewery website in the description below, and as I mentioned earlier, they do have Facebook and Instagram, and you can keep up to date on there with all the latest goings on at the brewery too. So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, this beer is one of the releases on December 1st through Systembolaget. And I'm not really sure what to expect from this one, other than that it will be an Imperial Stout. It's kind of low on the ABV for some of the Imperial Stouts that you can get. You know, you can get these things going up to 11-12% and things. This one is 8.7, and I guess, you know, 8% for me is probably the limit that you would find, you know, you would call it an Imperial Stout, I guess, or some people might argue 7.5. But yeah, fairly simple artwork on this one, but still quite tasteful and nicely presented. I thought they might, you know, it would be quite cool on this side of the label if they had just a little cartoon robot in this kind of textile or something like that. But it says on the back here, this Imperial Stout is a complex beer with flavours of licorice, chocolate and cafe that come from the roasted malt and the dark syrup that we use, or dark sugars that we use, syrup in, I think, yeah, syrups that they use. But yeah, so nicely presented beer, as I mentioned. Plain black bottle cap on this one. Best before date on the side here, it says best before July 7th 2019. So it's interesting that actually they're recommending that you only have about a year or so to drink this beer. You know, that's about 8-9 months actually. That's kind of interesting, that, because normally with an Imperial Stout you can age these things for ridiculously long. You know, some of them recommend 10 years, but probably you could get away with more than that. But yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. And as I mentioned before, 8.7% Imperial Stout. Yeah, a little bit of smoke on the opening, but we'll get it out and into the glass. And as soon as you open this one up, the first thing I'm noticing is red fruit and brown sugar. That's what's coming out of this beer straight away. But yeah, so as you can see with this one, it's poured a really nice, we'll get rid of the brewery notes for this now. So as you can see with this one, it's poured a really nice dark sort of ebony rosewood colour, you know, not surprising at all in terms of its appearance for an Imperial Stout. Nice solid finger of a frothy, I would say medium beige head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass there, and a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of the head. But as you can see, if I bring this beer right up to the glass, I think it's fair to say this one is definitely a very dark ebony colour. If I hold it up to the light, it does have a little bit of a chestnut kind of edge to it, but mainly a sort of very dark ebony rosewood colour. So yeah, nice looking beer this. So let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on then. Oh yeah, with this one, the first thing I noticed that comes out of this beer, it's got a very roasty presence to it. It's definitely got a little bit of that kind of roasty, and it's got a coffee-ish presence to it as well. You can definitely pick up the smoothness of the coffee note. I wouldn't be surprised if they've used some coffee beans in this beer. But it smells it's strange to say, but it smells so smooth. It just has that lovely coffee smoothness to it. There's some nice brown sugars in there as well. Quite a roasty toasty caramel out of this one. You're going to notice that there's treacle and molasses in this beer, but at the same time it has that nice roasty but slightly more sweet caramel presence to it as well. Definitely some chocolate in there. Quite a high cocoa chocolate, I would say. More than anything, you know, sort of 80-ish% cocoa chocolate for me. But yeah, the brown sugars are coming out very nicely in this. I really like how the chocolate and the brown sugars are blending together, and underneath that you can definitely get the roasted black malts, but also some of that nice kind of smoother coffee note in there. You know, you can pick up a little bit of that licoricey aroma that they were talking about as well. You know, Swedes, Danes, I don't know about Norwegians actually, but I know that the Swedes and Danes absolutely love licorice. I've grown to like it quite a lot actually since I've moved over here. I never used to like it before I came to Sweden, right enough, but my mum always loved it. So, you know, maybe it is in the genes, but I've really grown to like licorice, and it's quite funny when you try lots of these different Swedish Imperial Stouts, because a lot of them do taste like they've got this licoricey presence to them, and it's, you know, it's just them kind of picking out flavours that they like. I always love that when you go to different countries and you see these different little flavour niches that you can find. This is always really interesting. But yeah, malt base in this beer smells very nice. There's definitely a little bit of an earthy hop presence to this one, but I would say, going by the aroma in this beer, I would think it's American hops that have been used in this one. I guess maybe there's a little bit of Williamette in there. It's got a nice earthy presence to it, but it's not such a dark earthiness that you might expect from the English hops like Fugels or Kent Goldings or something like that. It's a nice slightly more sweeter earthiness. You can pick up that there's a little bit of grassiness in there from the aroma as well, which again to me suggests American hop. But there's a little bit of a red fruity presence in there. It's almost got a little bit of a kind of blackberry note on the on the aroma too, which is, again, that's making me wonder if there is Williamette in here. I'd be very curious to know that. I always enjoy playing Guess the Hops with IPAs and things like that, but I notice with stouts I'm actually pretty good at telling when Williamette is in a beer. And for me, I really do wonder about that, because there is a nice little bit of that blackberry-ish presence to this one. But nice juicy red fruits, a little bit of a candied kind of strawberry in there, maybe a little bit of figgy notes as well. But to me, this is more of a kind of blackberry presence, this one. But yeah, let's have a taste of this beer then. So this one is the Zoe, an Imperial Stout released on the 1st of December through Systembolaget from Sad Robot Brewing in Aröd in Gothenburg here in Sweden. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål. That's interesting. That really is an interesting beer. First thing that comes to my mind about this is just how smooth it is. It has got a big oily mouthfeel, but at the same time it's kind of creamy. And I'm finding the further into the aftertaste you go with this one, the more kind of roasty and toasty it becomes. But you do have a nice little bit of a smooth coffee-ish presence, as I was saying. This one, I actually expect it to be a little bit sweeter going by the aroma, but to me this one probably fits a little bit more into the kind of roasty toasty side of the Imperial Stout category. Nothing wrong with that, like I say, I always enjoy it, but I was really expecting something that was a little bit more sweet than this actually. Yeah, so for me, this stout's interesting. It in the middle of the palate. It feels very, very light almost. It's really interesting. So in the middle of your palate, you can definitely feel it's got a little bit of that roasted black malt backbone to it, and some of the coffee-ish sweetness is just kind of sitting there in the middle of the palate too. The sweetness for me, I was expecting this to have a good little bit of a brown sugary sweetness to it, but there's not really that much of that at all. Usually you get a nice brown sugary sweetness in the middle of your palate, and there's a little bit of it. There's a little bit of a kind of slightly higher cocoa chocolate in this beer, but really the malt base, the centre of your palate's dominated by that coffee smoothness, and then the roasty black malts just kind of sitting underneath it. It's really interesting just how everything goes together in this one. This beer is definitely not what I expected, but as you say, as a beer reviewer, when you've done like 1,500 beers, you want things that are going to test your palate a little bit and make you think. Yeah, I'm finding the further and further into this beer that I go, gradually my palate is sort of adjusting to it and starting to pick out the slightly sweeter notes from it too, which is very nice. I like how everything's going together in this beer. This is definitely one where it's all about how these different flavours fit together, but I'm finding my palate's really adjusting and just picking out more complexities to this beer as we go further and further into it. Let's take the hoppy side for a little bit then and just see if the middle of my palate develops a bit more. But back corners of the palate, you've got a nice kind of quite dark, earthy bitterness to this one. Then as you come further forward, that just smooths out a little bit. There's maybe even a little tiny touch of herbal quality in there. And then when you get to the front corners of the palate, there's a little bit of floral note, and round the very front curve of the tongue, it's just a little bit lighter and grassy, I would say. Then just behind that front curve of your palate, you've got that little oily bubble where those juicy, fruity esters start to come out of the beer. So yeah, in terms of the hops in this beer then, let's just take that quickly. I do wonder, maybe they've used a little bit of English hop in here, because it does have that really dark earthiness that you might expect, but at the same time the hops are just a little bit more pungent, and that makes me think American. You know, the big hops I always remember being used in Imperial Stouts and things like that are the likes of Summit and Williamette, and I do suspect from the flavours in this that Williamette is one of the hops that they've used in this beer, because when you go behind the front curve of the palate and you look at that little oily bubble, some of the fruity notes in this one are very distinctive actually. The other thing that might be present in this, you might have a little touch of Cascade or something like that, but I think if it was Cascade, the fruits might just be a little bit juicier, but there's something just in my head that makes me want to say there's a little touch of Cascade or something in here. But yeah, I think definitely Williamette, because with this one it does have a nice kind of almost blackberry presence to it, which is really nice, and yeah, the further into the aftertaste you go, it becomes a little bit more candied. There's a little bit of a red fruity presence to this too, a little bit of figgy note, but also it reminds me, as I always say, those little heart-shaped sweets you get in the Haribo Star Mix. It does have a little bit of that to it as well. A lot of interesting things going on in the flavour of this beer, but again, as I'm going further and further into this one, I'm finding that it's really smoothing out a little bit more. The coffee smoothness is really coming out into the aftertaste with this beer, and it's mixing very well. There's a very good bridge between the kind of coffee and black malt smoothness in this one, or roasty black malts I should say, and the earthy hops. I do wonder if they've used an English hop in here as well, just with the level of earthiness and things that you have in this beer. But yeah, I'll say with this one, thumbs up. I do like just how everything goes together in this one, and how smooth it is as well. It's quite unique for me in terms of its smoothness. That's the thing I would pick out about this beer. So yeah, lots of really interesting things going on in this one. But it's pretty straight. It's an unusual malt with this, but very smooth coffee notes, a little bit of roasted black malt in there, and just a little bit of chocolate and a touch of caramel in the middle of the palate as well, which is interesting. Maybe even a tiny little bit of a treacly molasses sort of thing. And I'm finding, as I was thinking earlier, as I go further into this beer, the slightly sweeter parts do come out a little bit more once your mouth gets used to the way the coffee and the black malts are coming out of this beer. But yeah, a really interesting one. But I'll say, you know, as I said, a big thumbs up to Sad Robot for this. It's a really nicely done stout, and it makes me curious about some of the other beers that they do in this. I'd like to try one of their IPAs. As I always say, if you want to try a brewery, try something from the lighter end of the scale or the hoppier end of the scale, and also something from the very dark end of the scale too. So in terms of the mouthfeel then, for me, this it's definitely a full-bodied beer. The carbonation's very smooth. It's got a little touch of an oily quality to it, but at the same time it's got that creaminess that you would expect from a stout. Nice bit of hoppy bitterness to this one, but also some bitterness from the malt base as well. I guess this beer is somewhere around the sort of 50, maybe 60 IBUs mark, both the malt base and the hops contributing to that as well. There's a little bit of sweetness to it, but to me, in terms of the Imperial Stout, it leans a little bit more towards the roasty toasty side of things, and then a nice little bit of a juicy fruity character in there as well. But overall, really quite solid Imperial Stout, this one. You know, not the highest in terms of alcohol content, but it does pack a little bit of a punch. If you like your Imperial Stouts roasty and toasty, I think you're going to enjoy this one. And the smoothness of this is almost kind of akin to some of these pool cask beers that you get in England too. So yeah, really interesting combination of things going on in this one, and it certainly makes me curious to try more from this brewery, which is always a good thing, of course. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this. So this one was the Zoe Imperial Stout from Sad Robot Brewing, a nice roasty toasty Imperial Stout that's ridiculously smooth. I think that's a good way to kind of sum it up. A lot of interesting characters in this one, so have a go at it for yourself and just see what you think. But once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Sad Robot Brewing in Gothenburg as well, and hopefully I can get up there at some point soon and check out their brewery and restaurant and try a few more of their beers, and I'm sure I'll review a couple more of them for you here on the channel as well. But thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very, very soon. This was the Zoe Imperial Stout, one of their winter releases from Sad Robot Brewing up in Aröd in Gothenburg here in Sweden. Until the next time, slange just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Skål.